first recap a massive game. Actually, like when you look at the Week 7 slate, it might be the biggest game of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's a battle of two NFC North rivals, two teams that have simultaneously surprised and disappointed at times already in
Mm-hmm.
this young season, and that is the Minnesota Vikings and Detroit Lions. Paul, what's your lean for a huge game for both of these squads?
Yeah, I think this is, like you said, a huge game. I think it's going to be tight the whole way. There's no way it's not. I mean, Minnesota, Detroit, they're both two overachieving teams this year that uh, I think are going to produce a really good game, depending on, of course, the refs. I mean, they've been spotty this year, but uh, I mean, Detroit's looking good. I'm taking Detroit in this game uh, just because of the fact that they're kind of unproven still at this point of the season. I know they only have one loss, I think,
Yeah,
and that was against Kansas City in a tight one. So they look good. This is a prove it game for them, really. And against a team like Minnesota, I think this is a game when Kirk Cousins has had a couple of big ones, and they can come in there and Kirk Cousins will show who the real Kirk Cousins is. Detroit will show who Detroit is. Detroit will win this game, I think. And a big part of that is not only Matt Stafford having what's looking to be one of the best years of his career, but also Matt Patricia coming into Detroit last year, having a tough year. Uh, Culture change without the buy-in. Now guys are buying into it this year, and it's been huge for them. I think it's bringing them the Belichick way, which is a winning way, and Detroit needs something
sure,
like
it's a
that,
win.
especially after a couple 0-16 seasons or an 0-16 season. I mean, I've got Detroit in this game all day. I mean, what's your lean here?
Well, first of all, before I get into this game, you sure the Belichick system is a winning system? You sure that produces high quality
Well,
win?
in New England, it has. So,
Uh, but yeah, I think probably a good like 85 to 90% of the media owes Matt Patricia an apology.
mm-hmm,
Following last season and like really mid-season, a lot of people were calling for Matt Patricia's head as a first-year head coach. They thought it wasn't working. They thought his plan was ridiculous. He had an embarrassing moment in the media, for those who will remember, at a press conference where he called a guy out. It was just not going well. There's an embarrassing moment where he made the team practice outside to toughen them up as a dome team, and people made fun of that. And the reality is he was right. Um, and a lot of media owe him an apology. Frankly, the guy,
mm-hmm.
say what you want about his uniqueness as a coach, but clearly he has a general idea at the very least of what he's doing. And yeah, if a couple things break their way, this team is undefeated this year. Like
Yeah, exactly.
both their losses they could have won, and the tie they should have frankly won that game too. So
Yeah.
they've got a lot working for them, especially when they bring in the New England veterans like Flowers and Amendola. Those guys help get the message across. But for me, you said the Vikings have been underachieving this year, and I actually disagree with that. I think or overachieving rather. I think the Vikings have underachieved this year. If you look at their roster and the talent they have around Kirk Cousins, especially after they invested in that offensive line the last 2 years in the first couple of rounds, getting a guy like Garrett Bradbury and Pat Elflein out of Ohio State and NC State. This team's really good. The
Mm-hmm.
roster's outstanding. The real question mark has always been at quarterback, even back to when they went to that NFC Championship game 2 years ago. So with the talent they have around Kirk, this team should be at the very least 4-2, and they should be a lot more successful than they have been against better teams. But this is a huge game for Kirk Cousins, as we're saying, because they should be better than that. And this is a game you got to win if you're Kirk Cousins. We're talking about the lines and the culture they've instilled. The reality is their talent isn't on the level of the Vikings right now. And if the Vikings are going to be who we think they're supposed to be and who they should be when they pay a quarterback the way they did, they have to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
You can't fall to 0-3 in your division. That's it. That's wraps.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but to
You got
come
to win
back to your
this game.
point, I think that Minnesota has shown that they're a good team. I mean, they've ran the ball down people's throats, they've passed the ball over people. They've shown that they can be complex, but they've never put it all together in one game for proper, all well-rounded offensive performance, I think that's really going to hurt them. They're a run-first football team, and against a team like Detroit, I think Detroit's the type of team that they've shown this year they can put up points. So Minnesota's going to be throwing the ball. Detroit's defense has played well this year as well. So,
Yeah.
of course, the talent means a lot. That's why I picked Minnesota to beat Philly last week, of course, in my famous pick over you. But I'm taking Detroit this week. I just got a feeling about them. I guess you learned from last week, but like something about them's telling me to just take them. I've got a good feeling about them. Sometimes talent doesn't always win the game, and I think this is a team that is probably the closest team it looks like in the NFL this year as a togetherness standpoint. They look like they're all on the same page, and I think that's huge in this league. So, yeah.
I think there's a couple teams in the league who are a little closer, namely the Washington Redskins. I think those guys are.
They have
also,
good culture. They have good culture.
Also, the Bengals. You see what Drake Kirkpatrick said? He's like, you got like dead serious, like, you can't trade AJ Green. You can't trade AJ Green. Like, I swear if they trade, I swear if they trade AJ Green, the stadium's gonna light on fire. But
probably.
Jokes aside, as Paul said, he's taking the Lions. I'm going to take the Vikings in this game. They paid Cousins for a reason, and frankly, at some point, that reason has to come out. And this is one of those games that they just have to win. And it's maybe not a pick that I agree with in terms of intelligence-wise, but more so just a faith that the Vikings. I think they turned the corner. We saw it against Minnesota, or we saw it against Philly, with how their offense looked, and I think they're going to show that again this week with a really big performance on the road against the Lions.